I think this is the greatest album of all time.
I completely agree.
This is my favorite album. And the reason it's my favorite album of all time is because it doesn't have any words. And every microsecond of sound that comes out of it uh, preaches volumes of story and humanity. It is a work of perfection.
Yeah.
And the collaborative and spontaneous nature of it, and the simplistic nature of the chordal progressions on most of the songs, makes it also, I would argue, in recorded music, the most durable and visceral document of the American creative experience. It's like Jackson Pollock, Ernest Hemingway, and Duke Ellington decided to make a record, is basically what's happening on this record. So that's the reason it's my favorite album. It's also because I don't think of it as jazz. I know it is the best-selling jazz album of all time. Ironically, next to Bitches Brew, which is two big hits for Miles there and two big changes of pace for music. But I refuse to acknowledge this album as a jazz record. I think it transcends like the best Stevie Wonder records or Jimi Hendrix records or whoever you want. I think it transcends genre. Um, so let's first approach it with that mindset because there was a class that I taught. I've taught it a couple times now, but the first time I did it was at Yorma's Fur Peace Ranch in Ohio. And they asked me to teach the music of the Allman Brothers, of course, even though I was never in the Allman Brothers band. But I happily obliged because it allowed me the opportunity to take 6 or 7 students, guitar students, live with them for 5 days, and show them that without both Bobby Bland and Miles Davis, there is no Allman Brothers. Okay. And one of the key points in this class was decoding Hot Lana, Liz Reed, more of the instrumental side of the Allman Brothers and what was the inspiration for it. And basically what I did is I had this band learn Hot Lana and all blues. And I taught them about the waltz time signature. I taught them about the twisted blues form. And I taught them about modal improvisation and playing the changes and not playing the changes and how it all interacted. And we also did the same thing with So What and compared the modal playing on that with the modal playing on Liz Reed. Well, I can tell you that by the end of the weekend, we did a performance and all these guitar players formed a little guitar band. And we did it in front of Yorma and all the other students. And at the end of it, they played Stormy Monday. They did like a combination of the Bobby Bland Allman Brothers version. They did these Miles Davis infused Allman versions of Miles Davis songs and Allman songs. And they got to the end of it, and Yorma walked over to me and he goes, "How the fuck did you do this?" I said, "What?" He goes, "I have never, in the entire time we've been doing this camp, and we've had some great teachers and players, ever seen a teacher teach people how to actually play Bobby Bland and Miles Davis arrangements." I said, "The Allman Brothers already did all the work, man. I just showed it to them. And then they did the rest." And he goes, "Son of a bitch." So look, here's the thing. Kinda Blue, over and over again by Dickie and Dwayne, was acknowledged as the main influence of their twin guitar playing. So I know bluegrass is in there somewhere, and I know the blues is in there, especially Albert King and B.B. King were their main influences there. But the Miles Davis, John Coltrane combination in particular was a big fucking deal for the Allman Brothers. As a result, it's a big fucking deal for rock and roll. Okay. So the first 2 songs on Kinda Blue, we're talking about So What and All Blues. They are So What is an example of early modal playing. So there's only 2 chords in the whole song. However, it does modulate, which means it goes from the key of D minor to the key of E flat minor and back. Okay. And that's kind of an unconventional move for rock and roll to go up and then go back. But the modal playing of it is the whole fucking thing is 2 chords. So What also has one of the greatest riffs ever written. I don't care if you're talking about Jimmy Page or fucking Leo Nocentelli or whoever, all these great riff masters. That riff is one of the greatest riffs ever
And
composed.
call and response.
And then the call and response of it really solidifies the hook element of it.
Yeah.
This is what makes it transcend what a jazz record is. It's just a great fucking record. Now, the opening of the piece of So What, it has a very French impressionist sort of Debussy thing that Bill Evans does at the beginning of it. And there's a counter bass line that's played that's through composed by Paul Chambers. It's very chamber, no pun intended, but it's very chamber music in the beginning of it. And then when Paul Chambers lays down that riff, that's when it kind of graduates to here's a new style of music. Okay. So the first thing you should do is learn that riff, and it's in the key of D, and the whole thing is D minor. So the first thing you want to learn is this, which is a great outline of the lick because you got that 6 in there, that B natural, which is going to be a key part of the language. And I like to play it in this D. So we're in the key of D minor. And then those chords are, for the So What, E minor 7, D minor 7. My shit's broken. There we go. So the second time.
Bless you.
Thanks. You end on the 5th. Root. 5th. Then we go. So that's going up to E. Here we go. So just take it up a half step. Same,
Yeah,
everything's the same. Go back. Right? Miles solo.
Yeah.
So the main thing, so learn the melody and the chords the way I just played them.
Yep.
So you got that whole cycle, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So it's this cycle of now scale wise, what we got going on is it's D minor. Okay. But Miles makes a very, very heavy usage of the 6 and the 9, the minor 6 and the minor 9. So that is the B and the E, which of course play very heavily into the melody as well. So the simplest like scale position for me to show this to you in is like the 10th fret. So if we play through this, you know, let's just try to keep it as blues as we can at first. And then here we're going to go E. Then we got the minor 6, the B natural, the dominant 7. Then we got the root. Then we got the 9, the minor 9. And then you can even go up here and double that 4. Now you get all these licks. And then, of course, you can also think of it in terms of triads, minor triad, which is think about, and again, this is how I teach this shit to rock guys, right?
Right.
Right? So that whole riff is basically Miles harmony in chordal shapes. So you can also take the triads out of that. Right? So you got now it goes to the change. Then you put the blues in,
Mm. Mm.
you know? Right?
Yeah.
Then we're getting into more like, now I'm getting more like Cannibal Adderley
Right.
shit.
Right. Right.
But that's the language. The language is, it's a fucking D minor scale with a 6th and a 9 thrown in.
Huh.
And then you can move it up a half step to E flat when it goes up, and you move it back. That's the whole fucking song.
Well, and he sticks with that pretty much the whole song, doesn't he? He doesn't, other than when he switches to the blues stuff. I'm trying to.
Well, then you got Coltrane, right? You got Coltrane and Cannonball are two different things. So Cannonball is like kind of like some grown ass man Cumberbund and Courvoisier shit. You know, like Cannonball was a music professor at Miami University, and he plays like one. He's like a fucking laser. Everything's like and then you got Coltrane, who's like all over the fucking bar lines, right? Because Coltrane's thing is like, what does he do on this song? You know, he'll play that stuff, but it's like, you know, he's all over. So the beats go, dun, dun, and you know, that band is like a Rolls Royce. It's just, it's fucking classy as hell, man. It's just like ding, ding, a ding. And Coltrane's just like, you know, you know, he's like all over the fucking place.
Yeah.
You know, it's beautiful. I mean, this is why this record, I always say that every song on this record is a different Shakespeare sonnet, because you have another character walk in. Each soloist that walks in is another character in the fucking Roman Senate or something. You know what I mean? It's like, it's unbelievable, because everybody who plays a solo is so fucking different than the other person.
And
this
so
is
good.
The goddamn fucking homogenized nature of music now, especially when you hear jazz, is everybody's fucking playing the same on every instrument. So everybody's playing the same fucking phrases on every instrument.
Well, it's the Al Di Meola Berkeley School of Music.
Well, then there's that whole acid trip. This is why I play rock and rolls, because I don't want to be hemmed in by any rules. Which is why, again, this is why this record was so potent in the rock community. Is because it had this freedom of invention and simplicity while also being complex. It had the right, you know, as they said in Spinal Tap, rock and roll is a balance between clever and stupid. Guess what? All fucking great music, all great art is a balance between clever and stupid. There was always a pop sensibility to Jackson Pollock or to Picasso. There was always a pop sensibility somewhere in there.
Yeah.
There was always that thing of like, well, my kid can paint this. And then on the other hand, there was like, oh yeah, you know, no. And it's like, you know, this guy studied with Thomas Hart Benton, and he could imitate Cubism, and he could imitate Japanese screen painting. He could do all that shit. Once he threw it out the window, that's where the power was. Same thing with Miles, where he was trying to sound like Dizzy. He could play the shit out of Autumn Leaves and Round Midnight and all this shit with a pile of changes. And then he said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do something that a fucking toddler could write. Baduka chuka tiga ta biba. I mean, and then they did it. And it's like one of the greatest pieces of music ever written.
Yeah.
Clever and stupid. So
Like
this
you were
record
telling
is the
me-
best example of that.
Like you were telling me about the Almonds, where it's like, you do the same thing, only do it up a string.
Yeah. Do it up a string. Well, they didn't, they didn't have the tools of music education at their disposal. And of course, the cool thing about this story of Kind of Blue turning into Fillmore East is, here are these fucking genius, trailblazing, boundless Black American musicians who at every turn are fucked by society, right? And you got the trumpet player band leader is signed to one of the biggest record deals of the time. He's Juilliard educated. His father was like the richest Black man in the West, surgeon, right? He had these advantages in life. And then you have Coltrane, who is spending his every waking hour in the New York Public Library transcribing Stravinsky and turning it into jazz phrases, which he learned from Charlie Parker. And you've got Cannibal Adderley, who's actually a university professor in Miami. Okay. And then you got a white guy like Bill Evans, who can play the motherfucking shit out of Bach and Debussy. This is a lot of give a shit in the room.
Yeah.
When they made this record, and a lot of musical knowledge. I mean, these guys, there's this famous story about how Miles worked with Bill Evans and he stole some of Bill Evans's composition for some of these songs, flamenco sketches in particular. But Bill didn't play on Freddie Freeloader, but he played on everything else. And it was kind of weird in the session because, All Blues and Freddie Freeloader are the two that Wynton Kelly played on. And Miles was basically like, white boy, get up, and like he got Wynton Kelly to play on the two blues songs, like, this is my music, because he was the only white guy on the date.
Right.
Bill. A lot of people, including Bill Evans, kind of saw that as like a swipe that white people shouldn't play blues. But I know for sure that Miles didn't believe that. I think it was more genius kind of producer casting from Miles. Like, now I'm going to get this other voice in here to kind of open this shit up and do something else. So let's move into All Blues, which, now the interesting thing about All Blues. Okay. So now we bring in, maybe Bill did play on All Blues. I can't remember. There's a version where Wynton plays and a version where Bill plays, but I think Bill made the record. But it's got that. So the opening, right? Again, another great bass line riff. So if you want to learn that, it's in 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
This says Wynton Kelly.
So it is Wynton on All Blues.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh wait,
so
that's Freddie. Sorry.
No, he's definitely on Freddie.
No, Bill Evans is on All Blues.
So that's why. So Bill Evans, he starts playing this again, sort of this French impressionist. Actually, it's kind of very Ravel-esque. He starts going, right? It's not some shit like usually guys would be like, and he's like, and so let's learn the melody. Okay, so it's G. Four chord. Turn around. Again, it's like a nursery rhyme. Now a guy would write a melody to that and it'd be. But he's like. That's a really cool note to do there. There's a little lag in there. And I'm kind of paraphrasing the end part, but the chords are just, I learned this really cool Kenny Burrell version of this when I was in high school that I love. And what he would do is he'd do this, like. Now this is how Kenny Burrell would play. Let's check this out. And then he went.
That's nice.
It's cool, right? So it's like
Yeah.
G7,
Yeah.
C, and then there's like this little sus chord thing. So it's like 7, 7, 6. It's just 3 notes. So if you want to learn that, that's how Kenny Burrell used to do it. But it's just G, and then it goes to C9. It's a blues, 12-bar blues. And then G. And now it goes D7 sharp 9, move it up a half step. Here we are with that again. And then back. And that's it. So really, one thing you got to really cement in this is you can play the blues over it all day long. But what makes what Miles play on it really cool is like he has that sounds like it's kind of based on these notes where you have like the 3rd, the root, the 9 and the 7th, the root and the 6th. That's kind of how I like to think of it. So like, so that's kind of, and you can do that in different positions like, and it's got this sound, you know, I always think of it, the solo on this tune in terms of these, like a dominant 7th scale played in thirds, where you kind of go like this. Where all the 7s are flat 7s, like dominant 7s.
Huh.
And that's how you can solo on the whole tune. The only trip you're going to have is, and you can fucking play the blues all day long over that if you want to.
Yeah.
But what we'll cover next time when I see you is the hip thing to do here is to go a half step up and play the corresponding melodic minor scale of the next chord up the scale, half step up. So instead of playing a D7 sharp 9 melodic minor, on the D7 sharp 9, you play an E flat melodic minor. Watch this. And then you move it up. That's going to be over your head for today, but I'll do that next time. So
Cool.
These 2 songs, we're in the bass line, we're in the chords, we're in the riffs. That's all you got to do this week.
Okay, cool. Ping me Monday, and I'll know then, because I'm doing my schedule now, whether I can do Friday.
All right. I have other days I work too, so.
Yeah, I know, but my schedule is fucking nuts until Friday, almost every week now. But
good for you. I have a similar problem. We're all just getting by, man. My band will be working outside a lot.
That's good.
So we'll see. Little Feet, I don't know, fall maybe. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
they've already got the jab. I mean, the bigger problem is like, is anybody going to pay us any money?
Well, that's the bigger issue, isn't it? Right? Yeah, that's the bigger issue.
Well, have a great week, buddy. I got to go fill my meter.
Sounds good. All right,
this
brother.
was super fun, man. Good luck with this. This is a valiant effort.
Yeah, I think it's time to start knocking it off. So
I'll send you next week. We'll meet up. We'll see how you did with the melodies and the chords and the riffs. And then I have transcriptions of Miles's solos on those 2 songs. I'll get them to you.
Cool. Excellent.
All right. Have a great week, buddy. Enjoy.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.